5 and 6 to occur before closed session. So that would be the recognition of.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so we will reorder the agenda with items 4, 5, 6, and 7 prior to closed session. 4, 5, and 6?
Yes, recognition of the National Friends Library Week, inspired staff for the ALA conference wrap-up, and number 6, the tour through Glendora's history.
Okay, so moved. We will go to items number 4.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will just leap right in. So this is our recognition of National Friends of Libraries Week. And we are here specifically in honor of the Glendora Public Library Friends Foundation. We are very fortunate to have them in support of many aspects of community success that is found through the library. Some of the major things that they help with are the Summer Discovery Challenge, which serves all ages and is about reading, but also other kinds of literacies and discovery. Multiple kinds of programming, and under that umbrella, basically, the important idea is that people get to connect with each other in person, online, or face-to-face around the world of ideas and to build the world of ideas. And very recently, a push towards making sure that history of Glendora is always going to be accessible in the future by digitizing more and more of our local history resources. Those are just some of the aspects that they help support. Here are a few numbers that represent the Friends Foundation's impact. This is for last fiscal year that we wrapped up at the end of June. In terms of the summer, over 31,000 hours were reported read. The speakers series that is online but also provides opportunities for in-person gatherings for watch parties and discussions and that sort of thing. We had over 3,300 views of that. Programming as a whole, again, that idea that people can connect virtually or in person around the world of ideas happened 22,000 times in the last fiscal year. The Friends Foundation supports the purchase of the most popular titles in our book collection, over 4,400 times that those were utilized last year, that part of the traditional collection of materials. The support of our e-library, which includes our downloads and streaming and ebook items, used over 40,000 times, and the views of that new Glendora history, 8,100 times viewed in the community archive. So very significant numbers. Person by person, here are a few of the comments we've had about that, because those numbers all come down to individual stories, of course. Here's one: we are so appreciative of the Teen Idea Lab. We look forward to it each month. And then, of course, Ms. Marcy and Ms. Cindy, we love you. Here's another: this is a very good library, and toys and books and a lot of amazing stuff, which the foundation, of course, helps support. And here's a third one: the app, which is among the electronic services they help support, works so well. Now I never have to worry about losing my card or going through the city website to search the catalog. So this coming fiscal year, well, the current fiscal year that we are in, this new one, they have committed over $193,000 in continuing support of those, but other kinds of services as well. And about National Friends of Libraries Week. Their friends groups have their very own National Week of Celebration, as ALA puts it. We are currently in that week right now, and tomorrow night there will be a city council proclamation declaring that as well locally. So some of you who interact with the library, you may see this survey or an online version of this. Please do take a moment to check off the different ways that things that you have been able to do that reflect the ways the foundation supports you and the library. And we want to say we are so grateful for all the ways that the Glendora Public Library Friends Foundation serves the community and that they have chosen the library as their way of doing it. So that is just a cheer to them and just an expression of that gratitude. Thank you. For the next special item, I will be turning this over to Library Services Manager Cindy Romero, who will also introduce her way through other presenters. Thank you.
All right, we're passing the clicker around. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the time to share with you a little bit about the American Library Association conference that several of the staff and one of our Board of Library Trustees attended this summer at the end of June and early July. So ALA, by the numbers, we had 5 staff who attended, 15 poster sessions attended, 34 conference sessions attended. Those are full learning sessions. 91 staff hours dedicated to that endeavor of that professional development amongst those staff. These are just some examples of some of the sessions that were attended. Clearly with 30 some, this was not all of them. So we had kindergarten readiness, managing stress, facilitation skills, leading libraries committed to community-centered collaborations, and everything in between. So we had some soft skills, some hard skills, and some just a lot of fun. Poster sessions, these are more informal sessions, much more abbreviated. They're basically big posters, and then the presenter stands in front of them and asks questions and provides input, things like that. So they're much smaller learning opportunities. So we had out of the museum and into the library. What happens if you're going to take your library on the road through a wagon? Make waits for new library spaces, engaging programming. Again, just a lot of fun, a lot of different types of learning that happened over the summer. And I have with me Library Aide 3, Jeff Snap, who's going to talk a little bit about the inspirations that some of our staff found this summer.
Hello. I think one of the important aspects of the ALA conference is that libraries sent people from very different departments and different backgrounds. The first slide represents one of the backbones of our service department. She's listed several of the things that impressed her most. I think we all shared the amazing opportunities to see what could happen with the collection development and with the different kinds of technologies that were available to see there, and the live in-person authors that people got to meet. The thing that probably impressed her most was the focus on the librarian, that on the right-hand side, you see her sign-up badge. I brought that in so you could see that in the past, they have little ribbons that you can put that were generally meant for the vendors to be able to zero in on who was buying. But this was much more personalized. It was more about giving the individual librarians a voice and making them feel a little bit more a part of the activities there. And may I approach the bench? That another one of the This was one of the new librarians in the system. She'd not been to a conference before. So this was a learning opportunity for her, that she was most impressed by the interest in community focus and interactions with the community. She also was able to network with people she'd met in various meetings outside of the library, so the community of librarians as well as just the public community, that the graphic novels section is probably the most visible of the inclusivity, and she was able to attend something that sort of pointed that out and gave her another way to connect with the public. That you see a couple of images of props, that the notion of a selfie is not dead. She was really happy to see one of Taylor Swift, but also that's another way to provide a connection to the public. So that's something she was interested in particular. I, on the other hand, was impressed by the mob, that I'd taken the train down, the Surfliner down when it was Comic-Con in San Diego. So I was anticipating sort of an excitement, and there were thousands of librarians. There haven't been that many in California since 2015. So just the volume of people there was amazing. The sessions were attended by people ranging from really small rural libraries in California and other states, as well as board members, as well as state librarians, and just the complete range of people that are stakeholders and shareholders in the library system. That the sessions covered a really broad range of topics, that I was able to do some work with people that like primary materials, so things that libraries and museums have in common and can share either with real objects or with objects that they've created, so they can interact with all ages of the patrons. The reason that the image is that when you walked in, instead of seeing a bunch of cats or a bunch of books, you saw quilts that were an auction that they had. And these were all things that librarians had spent their time making to raise money for the group. So I think that's a pretty good indication of the involvement that librarians have with what libraries do, that they're committing their time and their skills on several different levels. I guess that sort of covers what we did. Thanks.
Go ahead to the next one.
You wanna go?
And actually, we're going to turn it back over to Janet.
Ah.
Thank you, Cindy, and thank you, Jeff. It is good to see you here, sir. So just a little bit about some other takeaways that we have as an organization after this. First of all, we came out of it with an even greater commitment to the staff playing roles at the regional, state, and national levels. Many of the staff had never been to a conference before, and as of the writing of this slide, that was about to change, and it has now changed, because on Friday, almost every single staff person went to the California Library Association conference, and we'll be reporting out on that when we see you again next time. Also, it's a way of, we are looking at the ways of enriching the connections made at the future sessions. So we are asking them to connect the sessions that they attended on Friday, and when they were planning their sessions, we asked them to connect them directly with their own community service roles that they have themselves, and also with our strategic framework responsibilities, so that that was a very clear integration of their on-scene roles and what they were seeking at the conference itself. And finally, we are reaching out to provide greater support to the staff on those change items that they bring back with them, so that we can actually see some action come out of this in a more intentional way than we did with ALA. So all of that, our experience with the California Library Association was enriched in these ways from our experience over the summer. So that being said, as I said, this was written when we knew the staff would be attending, which they did on October 18th, and we have some great ways. I'll be talking a little bit more about reporting out from that when we go into further reports this evening. So stay tuned for more on that one. Are there any questions about the American Library Association experience?
I just want to congratulate everyone in their experiences at ALA. It is so inspiring. It's so like revitalizing. You get to meet people from all over the world, from every service angle of a library, inside and out of a library. And it just, you leave with so many amazing ideas and things that you want to try and things that you want to amplify in your environment. And so I just think it's such a powerful experience. And so congratulations to everyone who got to go to ALA. And thank you for carrying on that inspiration wave into Pasadena this past Friday. So I'm looking forward to hearing about what happened at Pasadena.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. That was awesome. And it makes me really sad that I didn't get to attend, but at least, you know, with the images and the information, made me feel like I had I could look through it like through your eyes, you know. So thank you very much for doing that.
And can I just add to what Jeff was saying about the ribbons? So to your point about connecting with other librarians through those ribbons, or people with roles in the library world through those ribbons, the kind of like the buffet of ribbons, like a couple hundred, right? How many would you say?
Oh, dozens and dozens, yeah.
And just all different colors. And so people had those huge like ribbon, what would you call them? Like chains, right? Or rainbows of ribbons. And so you could connect with people like, oh, that's a board member, or their specialty zone is this, or their special research, you know, like niche is that. And so people were really connecting through those ribbons. And it was very important because that conference was oceans and oceans and oceans of people from all over the world. And my big session that I spent the day with Paul Signorelli, and I'm looking forward to hearing about Paul Signorelli on what you experienced with him on Friday. But I was in a room with a delegation from the Bahamas, and they were all the lead librarians from all of the libraries in the Bahamas. Everything from the Bahamanian contingency to me, to big San Francisco, you know, heads of the library, to little rural libraries, and we all shared the same, like, how are we going to fund these great programs for our libraries? So it was a great experience. So I wish you could all go to see this kind of like coming together of all things library, because it's really incredible. Hopefully everyone will have that opportunity.
Thank you. I especially like that word amplify that you used. That's a wonderful way to describe some of what happens. It's not all necessarily new ideas, but it does amplify. That's wonderful. Thank you. Before we move on, I just wanted to mention that there's a little bit of a new setup here in this room that I'm still getting used to, and I realize I don't have access to see who is here on Zoom. And I do know that at some point in the evening, somebody from the Friends Foundation was hoping to join us. And I don't know if they are online. Maybe the clerk's office can tell us if we have anybody from the Friends Foundation as part of the Zoom this evening.
One moment, ask Greg. If there is a person, Greg will go ahead and unmute. I don't think there's any, and so then that way we can
Okay.
always just.
Perhaps she was planning to come for public comment later in the agenda, but in case she was online, I just wanted to make sure we paused, since I realized I no longer had access to know who was here. So thank you, I appreciate that indulgence. So the next thing we have for you is one of our librarians too, Gaetano Abundanza, who is here to give you a tour through Glendora's history. And I will turn it over to you, sir.
Turn it on at the.
Okay. Is this going to be on the, there we go. Okay, perfect. All right. Okay, so good evening. So our Community Archive gives Glendorans opportunity to engage and discover their local history in new and exciting ways. So I'll be briefly covering a couple of examples of that. First, our virtual walking tour. And we call it a virtual tour, but we encourage you to actually do this on foot, live, and you can, because so this, although it has 38 sites, you can see on the map that it covers about a 4-block area here. And for those people who find themselves in downtown Glendora, may not be familiar or may not be aware of how many historical buildings they just walk by. And so this is just a great opportunity to discover that. So this is on a platform called Clio. It's on our website right now. There's also an app for it. But I have this site, I have this tour right now, and we just click on start. And so just a quick guide through the screen here. This is site 1 of 38, leading off with the Cub Chance building. So we have a description of the building. We have a satellite shot from the outside there, as you can see. The map is number 2 is the second site in the tour and where it is in relation to where you are. Down here, we have a couple of historical photos, old-time photo of the Chance building, and then the Chance building in construction. Go down here, and there. Okay. Oh, okay. So yes, so this is the description of the why this building is important. But what I really love is the text-to-speech audio.
The Frank Chance Building, also known as the Cub Building, was located on the corner of Michigan and Minnehaha Avenues, now Glendora Avenue and Foothill Boulevard, and was built in 1912 by Frank Chance. Cub Grocery occupied the north portion, Glendora Avenue side, of the building for many years and was famous for offering 10-cent loaves of bread that were express shipped every morning from the Buffalo Baking Co. in Los Angeles. Frank Leroy Chance, first baseman for the Chicago Cubs, was a member of the famous Tinkers to Evers to Chance double play combination that completed 1,213 double plays in 11 seasons. He was also famous for being the first player ever to be ejected from a World Series game, in 1910. Chance eventually went on to manage the Cubs.
Okay, so, you know, like the same way that you might have toured a museum and just had that audio guide through the exhibits, it can be the same kind of thing. You can also just read it on your screen, although please don't read and walk at the same time. We don't want you to step off a curb and take a spill. But several options there. And then at the bottom is the citation. So a team of librarians pulled this information, culled it from our local archives, printed archives, and we got it up here. And so the citation is there where each individual source comes from. And so then it's just a matter of going next, and then we are, the next being the Venberg building. There's a modern day image of it and a past image, and then an old ad from the new Venberg building, which was new back then being 1925, so nearly 100 years ago. And so again, it takes you through site by site. And if I go back here, you can also, if you want, you can generate a printable map. You can reverse the order if you want to start from the back end. So it's somewhat adjustable based on your preferences. So again, this particular one has 38 sites. The other tour I wanted to go over, so this is October, it's Halloween season, and so we have Glendora's Haunted Past. And so this is a tour with 9 sites. On the map, it's a little more spread out, but some of the sites are walkable, a clump of them. And so if we start here, we start with the Glendora Country Club. And so we have, again, description of the site and kind of a ghostly looking image and another past image. And then what I like is that underneath, we have the specific reason why the site is haunted. So in many cases, we have eyewitness accounts or secondhand accounts or things that were published. So again, these are from our local archives, culled and researched by our librarians and posted. So I'm not going to play this whole thing, but it's there's 9 sites, and everything from haunted playmates to weirdly behaving electricity and all kinds of things that these sites are haunted right here in Glendora. And so what the next thing that we'll be working on is posting an art tour. When I say art, I mean local public art in Glendora and thereabouts. And so we're excited about that. And this is just a brief taste. I encourage you to check this out on the CLIA or on the library's website.
This is awesome. I love the haunted tour. That's so cool. I was just wondering how often is the haunted tour updated? Because there's the 9 spots, and in the event another place is determined, like there's word that it's haunted. How do you have people who
There isn't
recommend?
a specific schedule for, the good thing is that it could always be updated. It's adjustable. We don't have a schedule for updating it. It's based on historical archives, but we always have the ability, if there's new information that comes out or something that we could always add to it. So that's a good thing. It could grow. But this is from old historic Glendora magazines or newspapers, and so this is a much more historic than modern tour. But absolutely, if your house is haunted, let us know. We'll add it to the
Right,
tour.
so in the event somebody learns information, who do they go and
They can-
spread the word to?
To be on the tour, I mean, email.
Well, to add on to the tour.
To add location.
Yeah, the library, but of course, so being good librarians, we want to fact check and research whatever research is available. If someone just comes over and says, maybe not, but everything here has a written account somewhere, so would be first to establish some baseline of what the facts are, but the step to answer your question would be to come to us, the library, contact us, yeah.
Right, cool. That's awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I just want to say that this is genius on so many levels, and I don't know if this was like constructed with an eye for inclusion for everyone, but as we're going through the tour of this new addition to the website, if you're visually impaired, you can access it through the text-to-speech. If you're dyslexic, text-to-speech. If you have a mobility issue, you can still do the tour from your seat. If you're Boy Scouts and working on that, like urban safari, like requirement for badges, you could do that in a club. So I'm just very impressed by the inclusivity of all of the different modalities on the new edition. So congratulations.
Thank you. I believe that takes us through item 6.
So now we will be going into closed session. Is that next?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And do I say that we're transferring to closed session? Yeah. Yeah, right?
Yes, and then we
Okay,
will go ahead
here it
and
is, sorry.
announce the.
No, that's it. Okay, so would you post the closed session title to the record? And all inquiry of correspondence have been received.
So the closed session title into the record is Public Employee Performance Evaluation. A closed session will be held pursuant to Government Code 54957 to discuss evaluation of the position of library director, consultation with the city manager. And we will now invite public comments related to closed session only at this time. I have no yellow cards.
So seeing that there is no public comments, I move that we go directly to closed session.
So we will close the public comment portion of closed session, and we will recess the meeting and convene into closed session at 7:31. So now we are doing public comment for the general business session of the meeting.
Have we received any requests for public comment? Are there any people online? Any public comments from the audience? Seeing that there are none, we will move on to item 7, I believe. Library
3.
3, the report of library director and library divisions.
Thank you very much. As usual, we have a report for you and for the public in the packet. It is available online, and that includes a statistical summary. So rather than go over all of that in detail, as usual, I will just come to you with a few updates to share. First of all, we talk a little bit about the community archive and specifically some of the things that we have digitized from our collection to go into the archive. And since we finished our report for you, we have gotten clearance from our vendor because of our work with the Copyright Office. We now have approval to digitize the Glendora Gleaner, the Glendora Gleaner and Press, the Glendora Press Highlander, and Glendora News. So once we receive the things that are being digitized, we will be making another shipment, and we'll be adding all of those really rich resources to the ones that are already online in the community archive. And that's late-breaking approval that we got from the vendor because of the report from the Copyright Office. We're pretty pleased about that. With regard to the statistics summary, the one thing I wanted to point out is about the Wi-Fi uses. And Elke was kind enough to check in again with IT. And there are several possible reasons that we're seeing some change in Wi-Fi use. It's possible that there are simply fewer users. It is also possible that there are fewer connections moving around. So in other words, people have a more stable connection, so they don't drop and have to reconnect. So that's actually better coverage, meaning it's causing fewer disruptions, and that can actually affect the statistics in the way that you are seeing. So anyway, just wanted to say that we are continuing to look at that to understand the Wi-Fi numbers that you'll see on the statistics sheet. And then the last thing is just to mention a few things that we will be coming back to you with in the future. We may or may not be putting these on the standard fiscal year workflow in the future, but I just want to acknowledge that we know they are out there. First of all, we're going to be working on a wrap-up for our first year of our overdue fee-free status, so stay tuned for that. We will be reporting out on the circulation of the kits that were demonstrated to you or were brought to your attention last month, excuse me. And then we also will keep in mind that it may be appropriate to have a special meeting after the election, depending on what happens with some of the state measures that might impact what the city decides to do in terms of their own bond measures. And we'll just have to see what is appropriate in between the election and the next scheduled regular library board meeting in January and see if that, so that's a maybe, but we just wanted to acknowledge that was mentioned before. And finally, of course, we already said that we would come back and report to you about our attendance at CLA. And I just wanted to share some of the things we are asking the staff now that they have returned. We have, Cindy was nice enough to put together an online form that the staff could fill out. And the sorts of things we are asking is, of course, simply to list the sessions they attended and the vendors that they visited and some specific ideas they got from the vendors. But the questions, for example, what is one thing based on your sessions that the Glendora community can benefit from within the next couple of months? What is one thing based on your sessions that you can take action on in the next 4 weeks? What is one strategic plan framework responsibility that you can move forward based on your sessions, that kind of thing? And here's one that I think might provide some interesting feedback. Was there anything you did not agree with or something that surprised you? Because we did encourage the staff to approach the conference with some critical thinking skills and make their own decisions about what they were hearing. So we're asking them a variety of things, and hopefully we'll have some good things to be reporting back to you about. And you mentioned Signorelli's session, and I just wanted to say I also got the chance to go to one. And I have to say that the exercise we did at the end, I would not have been able to complete at the beginning of the 45 minutes. So it was an amazingly productive session. So more, of course, on that later. Those are all the updates I have, again, to the written report that is available to the public and to you in the packet. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Thank you. So we're going to go to item 8. Is that it? 7. Library goals and metrics.
Thank you very much. So this won't be all me, but I will start it out, and then you'll get to hear another voice this evening. So this is our wrap-up of fiscal year 2024, and we are bringing to you the library goals, the metrics, and the budget wrap-up for that fiscal year. We want to, at the beginning, just give a shout out to the Friends Foundation, because their support is evident throughout many, many of the things that we are talking about. If people want to understand the specific projects that receive their support, you can look at the director and division reports where we have them marked specifically as to what the Friends Foundation has offered their fiscal support for. But we're grateful for them across the board. So we're going to start out this evening with a wrap-up of the strategic goals. We know we reported out already on our wrap-up of the strategic framework responses. So we're taking a little bit of a different look tonight so that you're not getting the same thing back. The full report is attached. It is in the public packet. That format is not based on the strategic framework, the library strategic framework. It is also not based on the cross-divisional work that we try to do that is encouraged by that strategic framework. This is indeed a different view. It's based on the goals as we submit them for the city budget documents. So it's another way of looking at some of the same data and some different data. So in this presentation part, we are highlighting elements and perspectives that were not necessarily in the strategic responses wrap-up, so we're not covering the same territory again. And again, the full report is in the packet. These are just some things we thought stood out that you may not have heard, or you're hearing them from a different perspective tonight. So again, this is not structured cross-divisionally. This is, because it's from a budget document, is structured division by division. So to start out with, in administration, and these are tied to city goals and objectives in this case. So the city hopes to enhance their risk management, and on our end, we were able to conduct some bite-sized safety training activities throughout the year, having staff actually present many of those. The city hopes to assess and modernize the facilities, and of course, you know that's been a big part of our whole career this year, including our part in the bond feasibility surveys. There's a hope to enhance our presence in the community citywide. A couple of things we have done are to get the increased city funding for staff to have memberships in community organizations. And as part of that, one of our library services managers is now on tap as a new officer for her first time as an officer in the coordinating council. And also in the administrative aspect, enhancing employee development. Along with other city departments, the library joined in citywide diversity, equity, and inclusion training. So a little bit more on the administration front. The city has had as a goal and objective to represent Glendora's information needs at regional, state, and national levels. We've already mentioned this once this evening. As part of that was the attendance at the American Library Association Conference and at the California Library Association Conference. And again, that the attendance at those, in addition, included multiple new membership to those organizations as well. And as time goes on, we are going to be looking at the possibilities for committee participation in addition to association membership. Okay, so for the support services division, one of the main things on the city's list is to improve access to the citywide reservable and rentable facilities. So that's meeting rooms, but other kinds of venues that are available to either reserve or rent. And there is now a single, or there will be a single coordinated information page in the activity guide, whereas before that information was scattered around through the activity guide. And also, there is under development a newly designed city webpage that will combine information about those reservable and rental facilities. In the youth services area, among other city efforts to expand internship opportunities, we are, of course, looking at our volunteer match, call it geo-focused, meaning Glendora's geographically Glendora-centric clearinghouse of all volunteer opportunities, which would include, of course, volunteer internships, and on the city's effort to celebrate culture and diversity. The library hosted games and activities as part of Culture Fest, and also created a staff display in the library entitled "Where I Am From." On adult services side, one of our goals was to develop Friends Foundation affiliation and assess the literacy program. And we are successfully transitioning to a library-supported volunteer program where for many years it had been very robustly served by paid staff, but we are finding with the literacy training opportunities in the surrounding communities that there is less and less call for that in Glendora. Not that there is none, but that we don't need to pour quite as many staff resources into that. So instead, we are using those staff to coordinate volunteers to continue our literacy services. Also, we are working to ensure continued access to Glendora-specific information. This is, again, that idea of Glendora historical, but even also current information as well. And mentioned that the copyright research had been requested for additional resources. I just reported out on the success of that. And just to confirm that current scanning is, or actually some of these are already available, the Glendora Community News, Glendora Report, and one of our first phone books, and we hope to scan more of those for more of that geographically based data. Also in the adult services world, along with other city efforts to enhance employee development, the city's staff were trained by library staff on historical research methods. So we are lending our expertise to make the rest of the city staff more expert. And finally, in the development division, again, this idea of developing the affiliation with the Friends Foundation and to implement the elements of the MOU. I'm happy to report that the foundation's phone and internet lines and their printing machinery are operating independently of city technology. There's still a few steps to go, but those things have been achieved. So those are some of the ways that what you've heard us talk about before is represented sort of in more of the city budget, from the city budget perspective. And to talk about our metrics and budget, this is Senior Management Analyst Elke Cathell.
Thank you so much. Had to run over there and get the clicker. It's good to see everybody again. So I'll be talking about the metrics. Yay, so exciting. So first of all, the full statistical report, all 27 pages are included in your packet. Lots of good information in there. Some other background information, our data entry process has actually not changed since 2005. There's a lot of manual steps that we're still doing, and we are or have started working with our information systems staff to try and modernize some of that data entry to make it more streamlined. We did experiment with graphics beginning in 2019, and you'll see that in your statistics sheet. There are some graphics in there already, and we do continue to review those and always look for different ways to display the data that we have available. Also, of course, the thing that is impacting our statistics is the California Public Library Survey, and they are always evolving their data collection, and that has a big impact on how we handle our statistics. We constantly revise our statistics, and some of the objectives, of course, for those revisions is we want to reduce the duplication of data among the source files that we have. Of course, we want to reduce re-entry of data, because when you do that, there will be errors as you manually enter information. We do want to, of course, utilize visualization tools to make it more visually appealing and informative for the viewer. And we do want to represent and centralize the data that is required, again, by the California Public Library Survey. We pull most of the data out of this particular statistics sheet. And of course, we always want to ensure that our descriptions that we have in this sheet are accurate and really reflect what we are actually collecting with the data. So some of the things that are impacting our statistics is the continued use of constant contact. You'll see some of our PR emails. We did pull it out, but when we send out constant contact, it's usually a larger, 5,000 emails at a time. So that does impact our statistics. Changes just in how the social media is being utilized. The customers' use of their own devices, of course, impacts our statistics, as does the customer's familiarity with how our self-service options are, how they can be used, and how many features we have available with our library document station. People keep learning about those, and we see those numbers increasing all the time. Also impacting, of course, our statistics is that the first month of our Summer Discovery Challenge is at the end of the previous fiscal year, so it's kind of broken into 2 years because it starts in June already. So some more things that are impacting our statistics is, of course, that we continue to right-size our physical collection depending on community need. We have, as you've heard about, we have new activity kits available. We also have additional parks passes available. Those impact our statistics. Of course, a big one is that the library went overdue fine-free last fiscal year. That is a big impact. And of course, the way we purchase material, actual material fluctuates throughout the year, so we don't purchase the same things at the same time. It just fluctuates throughout the entire fiscal year. And of course, the November and December holidays impact our statistics. We usually see a lower attendance during those months. So we are, and we have been, and we will continue to rework our statistics based on the California State Library requirements. Again, we pull a lot of our statistics out of that sheet, and we need to be able to easily pull those numbers for those reports. And there is a shift away from utilizing social media as the tool of choice to reach the community. So that's also an impact to our statistics. I put together a little pre-pandemic comparison. The last time we had this up, it was kind of helpful for everybody to see. As you can see, the total library visitors is still below pre-pandemic, but we are seeing a slow increase. As far as the rest of the numbers are concerned, this kind of shows the trend in general in public libraries, where we go away from physical materials being used, and it really just goes more towards the electronic circulation and program attendance. So this is not unusual. It's kind of in line with what we're seeing all across the nation. But I am happy to report that the library visitors do keep going up, slowly but surely. So we're not back to pre-pandemic, but it is moving up in the right directions. So some of the things, as you look through the packet that I wanted to point out, so like I already mentioned, the library visits and the use continues to rise following our closure, so we keep going up on that one. Wi-Fi continues to rise, which, as Janet mentioned, may not be a good thing, or it may be a good thing. We are still looking at that, because it could be that, again, with the current statistics, it shows the Wi-Fi decreasing, and it could be that there are more stable connections. So we are still looking at that, but at least for fiscal year 23-24, those numbers were still going up. Our library document station customers and the usage of the library document station continues to rise. And again, this is because people are becoming more familiar with the equipment that is in the library and all the different features that are available to them. Customers are also, again, as I already mentioned, taking advantage of the increased number of our parks passes that are available for checkout, and our activity kits, and the 2 iPads that we actually have available for in-house use. And as I already mentioned, one thing to note is that we have this trend in public libraries away from physical materials usage. So some of the things that we are looking at, interlibrary loan requests from customers continue to be treated as requests for purchase. We are continuing to look at that program and assess the cost effectiveness of that. Monthly constant contact emails, again, as I already mentioned, we send emails out monthly to customers that are subscribed to receive our library PR emails. They have to subscribe. We're not just sending them out. You know, people do have to click in and say, yes, we would like to receive those emails. The volunteer hours fluctuate, of course, depending on the needs of the library, and again, depending on the availability of the volunteers. And we do have an increased usage of the volunteer match, as Janet already mentioned earlier, to recruit new adult volunteers to help out in the library. So our youth volunteers were actually a little less utilized in fiscal year 23-24 for our programs. And our overall program attendance has increased. And this actually is shown in numbers for program attendance in the building and actually outside in the community. So we are really trying to go outside in the community and not just have programs available in the library. We are currently looking at our homebound services. It is not currently active. I know Cindy's and her staff are currently looking at it and have reached out to local service organizations to evaluate the community's needs on that, and we'll look forward to finding out from Cindy what she finds out. Any questions? Happy to answer any questions on the statistics.
I just have one comment. The programs offered and the attendance at programs, that large delta between pre and post pandemic just really shows how hard at work you guys have been, right? I mean, you really hit the ground running. So those are impressive numbers. Thank you.
Thank you. And actually, we, even during the pandemic, we did a lot of online programs. So it's not that we stopped. The staff switched into a different gear, a different mode, and we were able to use, to offer a lot of programs then too, but we've actually increased since then. And again, we're focusing on both in the community and in the building. And I think it's been Cindy and her staff and everybody else at the library have been working really hard at that. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Great. Well, I will continue on then because it's so much fun. We're going to continue on with budget, expenses, and revenues. So just some background information. So back, and I know it seems like a long time ago, when I wrote this up, I thought, wow, this seems a long time ago, but in January of 2023, so the trustees reviewed and approved the library's proposed updates to the master schedule of fees for the city of Glendora for fiscal year 23-24. Then in February of 2023, we began the 2-year budget process for fiscal years 23 to 25, and staff submitted information required to finance. In May of 2023, the Board of Trustees actually received an update on the proposed 2-year budget and the capital improvement program for fiscal year 23 to 25. And then in June, the 2-year budget and the capital improvement program for 23 to 25 were approved by council, as was the master schedule of fees, which again made it so that the library can go overdue fine-free as of July 1 of 2023. In December of 2023, we started a mid-year review, and some of the recommendations that we made to finance included an increase to the utility charges as well as adjustments to our revenue accounts. In April of 2024, the 23-24 mid-year review recommendations were approved by council, and we started working on the fiscal year 24-25 mid-cycle budget. And then in June of 2024, the 24-25 mid-cycle budget was approved. That was a lot of budget stuff. So some of the things that impact our budget, and you've probably heard some of this already. Of course, inflation increases in costs, including but not limited to personnel, postage, utilities. All those things are going up for everybody, and they are going up for us as well. As you've already heard now, as part of our meeting tonight, that we are wanting to have library staff participate in regional, state, and national leadership, so that there are costs involved with that. So of course that impacts our budget. We still are seeing supply chain issues and extended lead times, even though COVID is a few years behind us now, but there are still some issues with that. Something else that impacted the budget was that we shifted our non-CLLS, and CLLS is our California Library Literacy Services, adult literacy salaries from grant funds to the general fund. And again, this was in part to evaluate, or this was a process, and part of that process is to evaluate the transition to a library-supported volunteer model, which Janet already mentioned. And of course, the budget is impacted by the facility assessment. I mean, the facility is what it is. So some general things to note, to point out as you go through the report, and again, all our budget reports are part of the packet, that if you look at our accounts, the accounts 41,000 to 42,000 range, PERS and PARS, which is retirement systems, and the benefits reflect full and part-time vacancies. So of course, if we have vacancies throughout the organization, those accounts will be less spent out as if we were fully staffed. Another thing was that our operating leases were actually combined citywide. So in the past, each department was charged for their own copier lease, and this was actually combined, and everything was moved to IT. So you'll not see those in our budget anymore. If you look at the report, there's something called a recruitment expense, and this is new, and it actually reflects our bilingual pay and special assignment pay. So you'll see that in several line items. So just wanted to explain what that is, because recruitment expenses could be a little bit misleading. So it's actually bilingual pay and special assignment pay. As you can see from our budget report, we have stayed within budget, 86% spent overall. So some of the things to note, we're going to just go through each department now. In the administration and development department, there are some items that are outside of our control, such as vehicle allowance, the infotech and liability insurance charges, flex benefits, workers' comp, those kinds of things are out of our control. We do recommend general staffing levels, but we do not calculate the costs. That is done by finance department. If you look at our building material line item, it reflects reduced traffic, utilization of existing supplies that was purchased in previous years, and kind of a holding pattern due to the building and not being quite sure where we're going to end up. So we're kind of in a holding pattern with some of these expenses. Our service and employee recognition line item is actually reflective of modified internal procedures. So we've made some changes, and those are kind of reflected in that line item. Our bank service charges are budgeted for the library's e-commerce, and we are still working on that with finance. So that is a pending project still. And if you look at our training and education line item, staff was actually able to utilize free webinars as well as library resources. And so that was used for professional development. So that's why it is not spent out in that particular line item. Our electricity, if you look at that line item, unfortunately, that reflects increased cost. And it's unfortunately, it just keeps going up. Contract services includes items that were originally budgeted for, but then were funded via other sources such as the state library. And our uniform and linen line item, we actually put the purchases on hold for any new shirts or any such thing because of the city's pending implementation for the new logo, which means we would be getting new shirts. So for our support services division, if you look at those division supplies, we actually, again, it reflects reduced traffic and less items being repaired. And for our youth services, the outreach supplies were actually not purchased because we had leftover items from previous years that we were able to utilize and expend out for this fiscal year. And for both adult and youth services, if you look at our public content for the public accounts, so in our library system, Polaris, we actually show higher expenditures than the city does, and that's because the city switched to a new finance system, and so we are working on relating those two. There is some work in progress to be done. So we show a higher expenditure, and so we will have to work on that and make sure that we are in line with what the city system is showing. So if you look at our grant funds, our mobile shelving grant is still reflected because it was a carryover from the previous year. And for our revenues, we did have some media adjustments, so of course those are reflected in that report. And again, just wanted to remind you that we did go overdue fine-free as of July 2023. Happy to answer any questions if there are any. No. And like I said, the full report is available as part of your packet, so thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar will be enacted by one motion without individual discussion unless the trustee has requested it to be removed for separate discussion. Does anyone wish to pull or comment on any consent calendar item? No? Seeing that there is none, I request a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Trustee Landman and a second by Vice President Tolan. I will now conduct a roll call. Trustee Landman,
Aye.
Vice President Tolan,
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
So now we're on 11. So unfinished business, review orientation needs of new board members.
Can you bring the mic closer? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. So,
Excuse me, I just have a question.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be beneficial for the new trustee to hear this? Should we push this to January?
so I would have to defer to the city clerk on how to handle that process.
During the reorder and additions or removals of the agenda, we should have addressed that at that time. And so given that we did not address it at that time, we can request at this time to go ahead and move this item to the next Board of Library Trustees meeting. And I will ask that you are giving the motion, and I will need a second for that request.
Okay, so So I would say I move to postpone topic 11 to.
Or move it on to the next.
To the next meeting in January.
We may have a special meeting called after the election, so just whenever the next meeting would be.
True. The next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
So moved, so we can move to the next item.
So move to item. Any closing comments?
I have a quick update, if I may, please.
Yes, please.
On October 8th, we met with it was the Glendora Public Library Friends Foundation board meeting, and they had some really good news coming out of that meeting. A few things. Their 2024 Night on the Plaza was the best ever that they've ever had, raised almost $200,000 that night. Next year, they're already hard at work for this next, it'll be their 25th anniversary, so that's pretty exciting. Overall, they've raised over $4 million for the library. There are some pretty impressive numbers. Their finance, a few people from their finance committee had reported on their affairs. They're also in a very strong financial position. One thing that they did note that I thought was actually a great compliment to the library, that not all of the funds, the grant funds, were being utilized. So I'm not surprised to see in those budget numbers that the library stayed within budget, 86% being spent overall. So that translated into grant money as well, it sounds like. So fantastic work, right? That the monies are being spent really judiciously. So that's really all I had to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments before we close?
Yeah. I would just like to take the time to wish everybody happy Halloween, happy Thanksgiving, happy Veterans Day, Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, and New Year's. So, let's see, and then just a reminder, please go out and make sure you vote November 5th, and at least by November 5th, so once again, I'm running for District 3, City Council District 3.
Thank you, Trustee Landman. So, and with that, I will adjourn the meeting at 9:09.